Me and my daughter used to be best friends, we did everything together. She truly was the light of my life. But things started to change on her teens, moodiness, lashing out, lies, etc. I just thought it had to do with her age, that she would grow out of it. I really tried everything, family therapy, long talks about how much I loved her. None of it worked, she would either roll her eyes back or spit more of her venom. My husband works really long hours and isn't of much help, to be honest. My husband is white, I am black, and my daughter is mixed, but she looks white, she really takes after her father. This is relevant. I really don't know what I did wrong, but her dislike for me began to become pure hatred. She would question all the time how someone like me could be her mother when she was white and I was black. At some point she even demanded a DNA test. I said sure, if she paid for it. She was not pleased with the results. She is 17 now and has began dating this white boy, and she is head over heels for him. She refused to let me meet him and told me that having a jobless idiot for a mother truly ashamed her. I am a stay-at-home mom, I don't think I have ever experienced such pain. Long story short, I couldn't take her abuse anymore and decided to go back to my family in Cuba. My daughter couldn't be bothered to even say goodbye to me. Few days ago I received a message from my daughter asking for forgiveness, lots of how she can't fit, is in a really dark place and lots of excuses. It may sound cold, but I don't want to see her face. I don't care about her apologies. I thought I had made the right decision, but my husband thinks I should really hear her out and forgive her. My family has been harassing me to go back to Miami and make peace with her, especially mother. And friends have been reaching out and have even called me a horrible mom for not forgiving her and how I must have done something for her to behave like she did. My anxiety has been over the roof. I am back on my pills now. Is this really my fault? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but please consider it. Not for your daughter's sake, but for your own. Holding on to this pain and hurt is not good for your mental health, and if you can reconcile with your daughter, I think it would do a lot towards helping with your anxiety. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. You don't have to sweep the hurtfulness under the rug and pretend it didn't happen. You can tell your daughter that she is forgiven, but that she will have to regain your trust over time by making amends for her actions, but that you are willing to give her that chance. Everyone's the idiot here. There's no question that your daughter has been vile, that's definitely the case, and I'm really sorry that she's treated you this way and hurt you. But you're her mother, and she's 17. Her brain hasn't even finished fully developing. A lot of teenagers do and say really dumb crap. It sounds like she has some self-hatred to work through as well, given the way that she views the whole race aspect. If you walk away now, you are rejecting her and might even push her further into this toxic mentality that she has. I am very sorry for how your daughter is behaving, as I'm sure it's incredibly painful for you, but given her age it's clear she is going through a serious identity crisis. Whether she's been exposed to some sort of toxic community ideas or whether it's an internal conflict having to do with being mixed race, she desperately needs intervention now before this vitriol solidifies as an adult viewpoint. Have you ever looked into family therapy? That seems to be a crucial step here. Taking off and going to Cuba, leaving your husband and daughter, who is still a minor, behind is not the right way to handle this. My dad married my stepmom when I was 11. Dad has me, 17, and my brother, 15. She has Case, 13, and Amy, 12. Together they have Abby, 3, and Jay, 18 months. My brother and I were always okay with each other, but after our mom died 9 years ago we grew even closer as we went through the trauma of finding her together and learning to cope without our mom. She died from an unexpected heart attack at 33. Dad met stepmom, and they blended together and attempted to make a blended family that felt no different than a nuclear family. But the bond my brother and I had was formed through shared experiences that we'll never have with our step or half siblings, and because of that we do gravitate to each other more. We do have a relationship they're not part of, something that just doesn't extend to the other kids in the house. It drives my stepmom insane. She told me once there is no reason the shared experience of being part of a blended family couldn't be enough to replicate it. My dad asked me once if I loved them all the same at least, and I said no. That the love for my brother is stronger and creates more of a draw to him than the love for my step and half siblings. He was disappointed by it, but acknowledged that us finding mom probably created an unbreakable tie that even he can't understand. Recently I have been preparing to move in with some friends when I turn 18. Me and 2 others have birthdays coming up and we want to live together and get space where we can be independent but also not alone. My brother and I have been talking about how I will always make time for him and he'll always have a place with me if he needs it. My stepmom overheard and asked her kids if they and I had talked about it. They said no and she confronted me on it. She told me she had always seen us becoming one group of siblings with no definitions between us. That no individual bond was stronger than the other. She said that she expected a complete blend where nobody knows except for us which parent owns which kids and which siblings are blood related or not. I told her it was unrealistic. That given my age alone when they came into my life and the fact my brother and I went through something so monumental together, it meant we were always going to have that between us and her kids could never. She told me it isn't unrealistic, we're just unwilling, and calling her dream for her family unrealistic is a low blow. Now she's sulking and my dad is trying to bridge things, but she won't apologize, and neither will I. She said I'm the only one who needs to apologize here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. What is it with these people who get married and have all these wacky ideas about how their families will look without ever asking the kids what they want? I have a special level of contempt for parents who force their expectations of what their family is supposed to look like onto their kids and then act like they've been wronged when the kids don't live up to the dreams they never agreed to. Your stepmother is 100% out of line. She has no right whatsoever to dictate your feelings, and it's astonishing that she continues to show so little sensitivity to the fact that you and your brother are bonded particularly by your shared grief at the loss of your mother. First, I'm sorry that happened to both of you, and I'm sorry that you're going through this now. Her expectations are completely unrealistic. Of course you have a closer bond with your brother due to your shared experience. But even without that, it's completely natural for some family members to be closer with each other than others even within a nuclear family. One of my sons is really close with me and not with his dad, we are divorced, and my other son is much closer with his dad. There's no animosity, and it doesn't mean that they each don't love the other parent, it's just that they are a bit closer with one over the other. Also, one of my sons is really close with his stepdad, my new partner, and the other one, not so much, but he is closer with his little sister. It's just natural, and I don't understand as a parent why I would want to destroy any special bond my kid had with someone, as long as it wasn't toxic, just because it wasn't how I wanted it. Very sorry to hear about your mom, and you will probably always be closer to your brother, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I'd say is you're probably being a bit too honest and could soften how you say things. Everyone is closer to some people than others, and that is true even for family. I wouldn't ever say I'm closer to one family member than another as this will lead to hurt feelings. Your stepmother is just looking out for her kids and perhaps is a bit worried of them being left out by you and your brother. She just wants what's best for them and is maybe being a bit too pushy and trying to make you all get along. I, 24, was dating my childhood sweetheart Mark, however, we parted ways in a very ugly fashion. For context, we come from different racial and cultural backgrounds. As a child I never really noticed, but into my early teens it became very apparent to me that they were extremely prejudiced to put it nicely, and downright racist to put it bluntly. It was hard to see it because they never treated me or my family unkindly, but in hindsight it was because in their eyes we were the acceptable sort. My parents were married, had good paying jobs, my brother and I grew up in private schools, etc. To them this all made us an exception, and so we were spared the unkind words and looks. I started to see them in a much clearer light as I grew older and started to understand why my parents never allowed me in their home, always denied invites given to me for family functions, etc. They adored Mark, but saw his family for what they were. Fast forward some years and he begins hinting at wanting to marry. The idea wasn't super appealing to me as I felt we were too young, but I loved him and saw a future together. When I brought it up with my mom, she said she wouldn't steer me one way or the other as it was my decision, but she encouraged me to go to the next family outing I was invited to, as it wasn't a choice I could make without fully seeing what I would be marrying into. I ended up going with him to a family BBQ, and it was horrific from start to finish. The day started with a rundown of a handful of family members to avoid as they were real hicks, not my words, and continued with hurtful comments about my skin, hair, exoticness. After that day I kind of shut down for a week and stopped contacting him. He doesn't agree with his family, but never made any move to speak against them or defend me. He just kept his head down and pretended not to notice anything wrong. Having that look into my future, I arranged a meeting, shared my thoughts, and told him I thought it best for me to end the relationship. It turned into a big fight with him throwing my stuff around, saying some disgusting words I never thought he'd stoop so low as to say, and then storming out my apartment. I could have maybe forgiven words spoken in anger, but not the following weeks of harassing messages from both him and his family. After a year of no contact, he reached out to a mutual friend after failing to reach me. His father passed away, and he wasn't taking it well. He apparently really wants to speak to me and wants me to accompany him to the funeral. I refused and reiterated to all our friends to not pass along my information to him. She said I was being cruel, that I was letting a stupid fight forever ago affect my character as it wasn't like me to be so spiteful. My family is on my side, but a lot of my friends say I'm being the idiot and have continued to reach out on his behalf. So, am I the idiot for ignoring him? Not the idiot, I'm sorry, but after what he did during that fight, I'd steer clear away from him. The way how you and your parents always saw him as someone different from his parents for years, but when things don't go his way he becomes like that seems like a red flag. There's also the part where he never even defended you when his family members insulted you, the same family members who are likely going to be there at that funeral. Also maybe, just maybe, if you accompany him to the funeral there's a possibility that he's gonna continue to ask to meet up with you and start having false hope of having your past relationship rekindled, that maybe you could get back together or something. You decided to cut him out of your life because how his family treated you and how he treated you after the breakup. I can understand not wanting to go to the funeral. But maybe reaching out and just saying sorry for your loss would be okay. Depending on how long you were friends and dated, he might really just need someone he knows and thinks he can trust to talk to. Not saying what he did in the beginning is right, but he did just lose a parent and feels really vulnerable and upset. But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you. He dealt with a breakup badly and crossed some lines. I had that with my previous ex. Things don't ever recover from that state. Never break the no contact. You made a very smart, educated decision backed up with live experience regarding Mark's family. He didn't do anything to dictate a future with you. You went no contact. Stay that way, please. I've been messaged myself by my ex recently, not even a red receipt for her after 11 months of no contact. She tried to, all the while sabotaging online social circles I didn't react to either. So, ever since I, 22, graduated from college, I have had a serious struggle with independence and boundaries with my parents. More specifically my mother. I moved to the city that I grew up in because I received a fantastic job opportunity that I couldn't turn down coming straight out of school. My sister, 14, was extremely excited cause that meant that she could be closer to her brother for a few more years. Unfortunately, this means that my parents feel entitled to frequent visits and regular meetings. I have my own apartment that is somewhat close to their house, which doesn't help my case. I often work 12-14-hour shifts and I can sometimes work nights with less than a day's notice. That alongside trying to kindle friendships and hobbies, I can be very stretched for time. Anyways, my mother just informed me that they will be going to Italy next summer, 2022, and that I have to help out with my sister. She tells me that I have to stay at their house for the 2 weeks that they are gone and I can just commute from there. My commute is already 45 min from my apartment and they are 15 min further away. That also doesn't take into account the fact that I will be on a different job by that time that will be even further away. So this would result in 1.5 hours with minimal traffic for my commute from their house. Having to wake up at 4:30 am to not get home until 7:30 pm just doesn't sound like something I want to do. She states that they legally cannot leave my sister home alone for that long, but I have looked at the law in my state and it does not state anything about age restrictions on kids left alone. But even to that point, she will be 15 at the time of the trip. I might sound naive, but I feel like a 15 years old does not need a full-time babysitter. I have told her that I am more than happy to help out and stop by the house and take her out occasionally, but that I cannot responsibly stay at their house for that long. Hell, I even said that I can stay the night on weekends or nights I don't have work. She then responds with yes you can. You can stay there, the house. She refuses to see the fact that I will be so far away for more than half the day. I have my job and responsibilities to tend to, and my girlfriend, and I will be living together by then. Eventually just said that I'm unprofessional and immature and that they will find someone else because I'm too much of an inconvenience. I am more than happy to help and I am excited for them to be going on this trip, but being that far from work for so long does not make sense to me. I just find it disrespectful that she would demand that I do this, especially after booking the trip and not asking me before. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Just say calmly whether I can or not, and I do not believe I can, I will not. And I will not talk about this with you further. And if she continues, say, I told you I am not discussing this. No is a complete sentence, I have said no, and I am not changing my mind, then hang up or leave. I find it amusing, personally, that they called you unprofessional for wanting to ensure you do a good job at the work you were hired and paid to do, and immature for reinforcing the fact that you are an adult and no longer a child they can order to do something. Not the idiot. Unless your parents are willing to hire a live-in nanny for the time they'll be gone, your sister needs to stay with a friend's family while your folks are gone, and your parents need to hire a pet sitter aboard the pets. 15 is too young to be basically on her own for 2 weeks a weekend, maybe, but not extended periods. Even if you were willing to do what they are demanding, your work schedule means that you are not available enough during the week, since you are either commuting or working at least 14 hours a day and would be at least an hour away if there were an emergency. Realistically, this trip is next year, and who knows what could happen by then. No sense wasting time arguing over it. Ask how they're covering expenses while they're gone, assume they're leaving you a credit card while they're gone. You and your sister can work it out between the two of you. She'd probably be thrilled to be on her own and check in on her, take her to a few dinners, and use the credit card to hire someone to check in on her when you can't.